And like I said at the beginning of the show, it is the Bo Show. That's what we're rocking with here. It's smooth sailing in Chiefs Kingdom, baby. We got a Super Bowl matchup coming up. Pat Mahomes versus the San Francisco 49ers defense. It's gonna it's gonna it's gonna get chippy out there. Pat Mahomes is gonna go full petty pat and score 6 touchdowns. 2 with his feet, 4 through the air.
Two by feet, four by air. I like that.
Yeah.
Will uh will they come up with the all-time scoring record now? They're gonna beat 55. Niners defense hasn't played a
Six
very
six
good
times
quarterback this
seven.
year.
6 times 7 is only 42.
Defensive touchdowns, Jaco touchdowns. Like there's more than just the game than Pat, damn it.
No, no, Pat's gonna be responsible for all of our scoring, 42 points. I originally said 31-28, but now I'm in my petty Pat phase. I'm in my petty Pat era.
There's quite a few people that think the Chiefs are going to score above 32 points. I'm just listening to all the score predictions that have been going on this week at Radio Row. There are a lot of people who think the Kansas City Chiefs are scoring, that both teams are scoring very high, that we could see over like over if we took the over would be above 57 points, I think, if I was to guesstimate.
I just don't see that happening. That's not going to happen. We have not shown that we do that in this playoffs. The only game that was against was kind of like the Bills, but even then, we kind of stalled out at times and not even pushed it to the limit of what we could actually do with this offense.
I think we pushed the limit on what we can do with the offense in terms of scoring points. Now, that doesn't mean that we can't control games, but also to think that the 49ers are going to put up over 30 points themselves is also ridiculous. We're the only defense in the league that hasn't allowed that, while the San Francisco 49ers have allowed it 3 times this season.
Yeah, I think we just match up very well against the 49ers defense. They're definitely a lot weaker than the last time we played them in the Super Bowl. We played them last year and we scored the most points against them last year as well. So we have the Niners number, it looks like, really. And we love to score points against
Do we
them.
remember who was quarterbacking that game? Was that like Trey Lance or some bullshit?
I believe that was Jimmy.
Jimmy G.
Yeah,
Jimmy G.
Yeah, Trey Lance didn't
he
really
was out
play
early,
until last season, and then he was well,
out
Jimmy
after like week three.
Jimmy G played with Christian McCaffrey? Because I'm talking about the first he
McCaffrey's
did.
first game with San Fran.
Yeah, okay.
yep.
I don't I don't think their defense is that much different than at that
No,
moment. I mean, minus the addition of Chase Young, I guess. But then
Like
we
he's
we
gonna
took
matter.
we took a Minihue off that defense, did we not?
we did, but they
Did they
have
get Hargrave?
Chivarius. They have Hargrave.
They had Javarius last time too.
Yeah,
Did
they
they?
would.
Okay.
Yeah,
So Chivarius isn't new, but Hargrave and because Hargrave was with the Eagles.
yeah.
So they've got Hargrave and they've got um Chase Young, who honestly has not produced this year for that defense. For as good as they are, and again, we've talked about how good that linebacking core is, how we know how good Chivarius is. Don't know if their defense is really that good. I don't know.
Well, they they got a lot of names for their name brand, bro. Uh, but if you look at what's happened in the playoffs, team subpar Green Bay, subpar rushing attack in Green Bay put up over 150 rushing yards, and then they gave up a shit ton to the Lions as well. I know a big chunk of that was the Jamison Williams little end around thing, and that kind of thing can happen to any defense out there. But as we've talked about before, if we stick to what we know is going to work for the Chiefs, a lot of rushing with Isaiah Pacheco and stick to your two main targets in Rashee Rice and Travis Kelsey, there shouldn't be anything that they do that can stop us. If Pacheco gets between like 80 and 120 on the ground, we're gonna be cooling.
How do we feel knowing that Joe Tooney hasn't been ruled out, but most likely will be um, ruled out and not playing in this game. That means Nick Allegretti is going to have to step up. We've seen him play obviously last week against the Ravens. Their defensive line isn't nearly as good as this 49ers defensive line. We've also seen him the last time in a Super Bowl having to play against Tampa Bay, where he got absolutely destroyed. Do we have confidence that Nick Allegretti can step in for Joe Tooney against a defense of this caliber comparatively?
I think I have the utmost confidence in Nick Allegretti in stepping into this role right here. I would argue the Ravens defense was a lot better than the Niners defense this whole entire year, and he played great against them for what he was doing. He has better players around him this time. He doesn't have other second or third stringers playing next to him on the starting lineup this week, so he's gonna have a much better Super Bowl this year than he had in the past.
Allegretti isn't like any like a you would talk about like a baseball hometown prospect, but like he damn sure feels like it. He's been with us for a minute, and he's definitely gotten better since that Super Bowl. But if you look at what happened to us in the Ravens game, I think Trey Smith was having more problems than Allegretti. So, um, sure, we need to. I mean, we need to keep eyes on the guys up front and make sure those guys are still executing. But Trey Smith is the guy that I think we might be focused on a little bit more than Allegretti because he. I won't say got exploited, but he definitely had his problems in the Ravens game.
Surprising. Sean, you would say the defensive line for the Ravens was better than the 49ers
I
defensive
think he
line?
said the
The whole
Ravens
entire
defense
defense.
Oh, okay.
performed better this year, but
No,
their front
I
seven
would
is
agree.
just is
That's where I would say
you guys like to shit on them a little bit, but I would say the Ravens front seven is just as formidable as what the Niners
Hmm.
got going on.
and they were while the Ravens were good, they were also 22nd in pressures created. They also were 15 or below in run defense. Comparatively, that's not
It's still
that's
turned
not the same
into the
as
best
where the
We're
scoring
still,
defense in the
49ers are.
NFL.
yeah.
That's because they have really good DBs. Again, I think it's their back seven that is really fantastic comparatively, where their defensive line is not creating the issues. Whereas on the 49ers side, that defensive line is creating all the opportunities for the DBs to be able to play the way they do and still get tore up, as we've seen in the playoffs, like you guys had said against Green Bay, really sloppy. They let up a lot of rushing yards that they shouldn't have, got passed on quite a bit by and made Jordan Love look really, really good when he's clearly not that good. And also gave up a lot of early points to the Detroit Lions in the last game with just being able to come back.
The main thing I'm looking at right here is how they played in the playoffs so far, and
Not good.
it's not good at all.
Well, because they tend to get more pressures and the philosophy of their defensive coordinator, they like to rely on those pressures and not necessarily stack too many people in the box. That's a big reason why they got gashed in the playoffs because that was exploited. I think the biggest story is going to be how soon do they make that adjustment and go to man, or do they stick with man, and does that shut us down? Because that's if you can do it effectively, that's probably your one way of stopping our offense. But if you can't get Travis Kelsey accounted for in that man to man, then it still falls to shit. So they obviously did much better in the second half, and they're a team that knows how to make adjustments. I think if they can make those adjustments on the fly, if they're getting exploited in the first half, this game's going to be pretty tough. But we know the Chiefs like to get out to hot starts, so I'm kind of expecting an explosion from us in the first half, and then maybe one touchdown and a field goal in the second half.
Are you expecting for our streak to continue of first opening drive scoring touchdowns in the playoffs at least? What are we up to? Seven,
I
eight
think
games in a
it's more
row?
than possible. I think we have the script writers to put something pretty nice together, man. Andy Reid's just I mean, he's the father of everybody in the NFL as far as making making a good first 15 or a first 30.
Well, that's the route you were going. I thought you were going with NFL script writers.
Not those, not those. Play script. The what the and I'm sure there's options built into our offense tending like on how the play flow goes and all that junk. But as far as setting a plan to begin the beginning of games and like coming out of halftime, I don't think there's anybody better than Andy Reid.
I would agree. Plus, don't forget the Andy Reid off of a bye is what, one loss in his career, maybe
Something
two
pretty
losses in his
obscene.
career.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous that off of a bye, and this counts for that. I would say we need to continue to rely heavily on Pacheco as we have this entire postseason. Continue to do that. Give him 15 to 22 carries. He's going to have to be the guy that does that, manage the clock. But at the same time, like you said, Tybo, they're really going to be focusing on that man-to-man effort. I think they're going to be doubling up Kelsey. It's not really going to be a lot of zone, which our team, at least the way that Andy runs the offense, is
But
much more built
that's the way they're
for.
going to start out. They want to stay in zone because that would mean they're being more effective up front. But
Yes, correct.
that's where we got to hit them hard and fast.
And what I would like to see to bust that zone early on is a lot of what we saw in the Ravens game that got the big plays going. The quick bubble screens to receivers, or the inside screens as they run through the play where Rasheed should have scored on, but they called it back for a bogus hold on Trey Smith. Those sorts of plays, we get the quick screen, everybody's set. Those are the types of plays that are going to go ahead and beat this man front shown against the 49ers. They're fast, they can react really quickly, but if we start to draw them out one way or the other, that's where Andy is going to start thriving, even with the limited resources that we have on the offensive side at receiver.
Yeah, I'm honestly expecting if we go to anybody besides Rasheed, Travis, or Pacheco, we're gonna have trouble, not get very much yardage, and stall out.
Yep.
It's gonna be just going back and forth with those three guys over and over and over again.
Don't forget, Pat's going to be probably running quite a bit. If you're a better, the over under, I'd set I if it's at what, let's say 28.5 rushing yards, definitely take the over. I would guesstimate that I would guess that Patrick Mahomes rushes for 56 yards in the Super Bowl come Sunday.
And don't forget, this is also a playoff game, and we have not had a 100-yard playoff game from MVS yet, so he's bound to go off as well. So definitely take the over on that too.
Don't forget this is the last game MVS will play as a Kansas City Chief, so he's got to let his legacy shine out one way or the other. It's either going to be really, really good or it's going to be really, really bad.
How do you know that?
Because he's definitely getting cut, so we can save $12 million in cap space and actually bring in a real receiver this next year.
Oh man, it's a cold world out there. But I'm about that action. Please cut it.
I'm pretty confident, surprisingly, for as limited as I know this offense is, uh, give in the skill position, but in the way that, like you said, Tybo, the script writers for this Kansas City Chiefs team getting the play calling in, adjusting. I'm a little nervous for Nick Allegretti. Again, he played really good last week, but hasn't really had a test. This week's going to be tough.
Can't question the
Um,
man's passion. I think he deserves to be
can't
there.
question his
I
passion.
think I think he's ready.
His interviews are really really cool to see. But he does, being out there as a starter, make me a little nervous.
Gotta believe.
I'm expecting a big man touchdown in this game, at least one.
Do you
Something
think
crazy on the goal line.
do you think they slide Creed or they keep Creed at center? Because they've talked
Um,
about that as a possibility on the offensive line before,
yep.
having Allegretti play center. What do
No,
you
different hands.
just
Different
quick?
hands.
What are your thoughts?
I think if we are to move, Allegretti will start. If Allegretti plays poorly and we need to make a switch,
No,
Creed gets
I'm asking. Does Creed play left guard and Allegretti play center, or does Allegretti stay at the left guard and Creed?
Allegretti staying left. We can't switch it up.
Allegretti stays
Patrick's
left
used to the
guard.
left-handed center for 2 years now.
And I would say that should Creed need to slide out, Allegretti would not go to center. I think we'd bring Austin Ryder in.
No, Allegretti's listed as the backup on both the center and the left guard, and I know, in mid game when our left tackle Donovan Smith went out. They were talking about the different ways that Kansas City could shuffle the line, and one of them was proposed that Tooney slide out, Creed slide out, and you stick Allegretti at the center.
Yeah.
So
You could.
I
just know
wouldn't be
Ryder's been
surprised
a
if there's
starter
problems.
before.
I wouldn't be surprised if there's problems that something else was tried. Like if one look we were getting with like Allegretti was getting beat real bad and we really wanted Creed to be in that spot, like maybe there's a chance. But I mean, there's a lot to say about the continuity of a center and a quarterback. So